Dense vegetation around, and we'll see them around through more. Alright, so these are some of our devils. You will see they are looking a little bit moth-eaten at the moment.
Yeah.
And the reason being is we do have 4 young males, so these are all 2-year-olds. This is their first breeding season. And they're all blue. Testosterone's a little bit on the high side at the moment. And at present, we do have 60 devils here because we are part of a captive breeding program, and we are one of 7 breeding facilities around the country. So, being literally in the middle of the breeding season now. Oh,
oh, it's on.
So what we try and do, what we try and do is group house our devils where possible. You could just start eating.
Oh, I'm glad you did, yeah, because I think it was his story coming, so I did travel back in the afternoon. So I'll be there. Do you know what time? Talk soon, Daddy.
Dear, oh dear.
Shut up.
They're a little bit raised up this afternoon. So, devils are a threatened species, and that is due to facial tumour disease. Now, as I was saying, we are part of a captive breeding program. Having 60 devils here, we do see a little bit of aggression in the breeding season. Having the 4 boys together, ideally we probably wouldn't have 4 young ones like this in a group. But we were meant to be sending devils overseas last year as part of the ambassador program in Europe, and COVID sort of put an end to that. Now, being part of a breeding program, we had a few devils come to us as part of that movement for Europe, and we were quarantining them all together. We were quarantining them all here at Trowunna, and then with the borders closing, not only did we end up retaining the ones that we should have sent, we also ended up holding on those that came that should have actually left. So now it's just a matter of trying to make everyone see eye to eye. They are a species that is generally solitary, but they do engage with each other quite frequently in the wild. They are a carrion feeder, and as you can imagine, being a carrion feeder, quite often neighbouring devils and neighbouring home ranges will come together because they'll smell that same food source. So now this, come on. Now what we try and do, because they can be reasonably antagonistic at the best of times, what we try and do is, or what we do as youngsters, when they're weaned, at 9 months of age, we will actually group house all our joeys together. So if we have 4 litters, we'll actually put all 4 litters together from the age of 9 months, and we'll start separating them out just prior to their first breeding season at about 20 to 21 months of age. Over that year period that they're together, they do learn to engage with each other, so not every interaction has to be a negative one. And now, yes, you know, they do have a few bites and things which we'll treat when necessary.
Yeah, they get a bit threadbare in the fur department, some of them, don't they?
Sorry?
They get a bit threadbare in the fur department.
They can do, and mostly because, say for instance, if you have a feed here, one might come up and and have a bit of a bite on the rump. The thing is, we can treat wounds. We can't treat an antisocial devil. And when you're dealing with a captive breeding program, so these guys being a threatened species, we are working with quite a number of other facilities on the mainland and also a few here in Tasmania. And the program is actually run by a coordinator. Now the coordinator will say, right, I want you to breed this male with this female. If you have an antisocial devil and you're basing your pairings on genetics, you might have an animal who's genetically valuable. If he's antisocial, good luck trying to breed him.
Yeah.
Because one, to try and group house him for a start, they just don't have the social skills, and they try and kill everything first and ask questions later. But even we have a 6-year-old now who came to us as a 2-year-old. He wasn't socialised very well, or I don't think he was actually socialised at all prior to the age of 2. We received him as a 2-year-old. He tried to kill every male that we went with, and even from the age of 2 onwards, every year we were asked, he was recommended to be a breeder, and even though he'd be pair up with a female, he was so fixated on what the other males around were doing in other pens, he never actually fathered young. So he's now 6 this year. We've been through 4 breeding seasons with him. He's been paired up probably about 6 times in that time, and we haven't produced one joey off him. And the reason being, he'll sit there and guard her, but that's the thing, he's too fixated in, and even if you put him away from other devils, he's just right, who's where, and he's just, he can be quite an anxious devil. Whereas all of these, sorry,
you could go.
all of these boys as 2-year-olds, they've all been recommendations, breeding recommendations for this year.
Oh, yeah.
They've all, 2 of them have sired litters already. The other 2, even though they mated, the females didn't produce young, and those females have actually come into estrus again. We're just trying them with some different males at the moment. And yeah, you know, like you can see now, they're coming up, they're having their, some are having their feeds. This one will have a bit of a feed, and then the other guys will come in, you know. Once we do the tour, I'll actually cut this in pieces and just start scattering in pieces around.
God damn it, I know what's in there. Yeah, that was going to be my question. How do you watch your way around that to get suitable pairs for breeding? But yeah, you answered that.
Well, it's all based on genetics.
Yeah.
So say for instance, if you have 2 brothers who, you know, we might get the recommendations and say, right, either one of these 2 boys can breed with the female.
Yeah.
Now say for instance you have one boy who's bigger and is a lot more confident, we'd use him first and see how he goes. If he's unsuccessful, we'll try his brother. Yeah. But it's all based on genetics. Now, you might, it might look, what we could do is feed out separate pieces as opposed to a carcass like this. What I often try and do is bring in pieces for these guys.
God, he's nuts! Oh no, he's on a good thing there.
It's like those Easter eggs you get with the chewy, creamy insides. It's a bit of a delicacy for devils.
Oh.
Look at that, he says. You hear that chewing?
Yep.
Oh, there we go.
Yep.
All gone.
So how's it all going with their numbers with
Facial tumour disease?
Yeah, are they
So DFTD, there are still devils with DFTD in the wild.
Yeah.
Some populations are doing better than others. They're just a little bit raised up today.
They're still threatened though, aren't they?
they are still a threatened species. Reason being, when you're seeing the populations, you might see a population increase.
Yeah.
But there's always, you know, come next breeding season or come when the young ones start to wean and you have a lot more migration of animals. If you have an animal with DFTD coming into a population, that may then start spreading it again.
Yeah,
so
okay.
their numbers are still, in a threatened. When we're looking at animals being categorised in terms of vulnerable, threatened, endangered, or all these sorts of things, it very much goes down what the populations are like in the wild.
Okay. Yeah.
So if you're below this number, you fall into this category. If you're between this and this number, you're in this category. So they're still classified as threatened. There is supposedly about up to 4,000 in the wild. They're not a very bright animal.
And they're not much of a climber. They don't try and climb up the sheer
No,
wall?
when
Oh, it's a sheer wall.
young devils, so weaning age, can be climbers. You do have to be careful over where you house them.
Yeah.
Once they start getting a little bit of weight and age to them, so even a young one will probably struggle, you know, trying to get up there.
Yeah.
So we generally don't have young ones in here. All our females with pouch young, and you know those that are of weaning age, are all in the colour bonding closures for that very reason. Yeah, see what had happened, he had the chicken, was too busy chasing everyone else around, and he snuck up and grabbed it and went, loser. So,
Yeah, they're certainly cute in their own way.
And I guess some of the kangaroos are silly enough to, or get scared to jump in there.
yeah,
They get in there.
yeah, devils don't care, they don't worry about them.
Oh.
So, and the kangaroos just bounce out.
Well, they're fed pretty well in here, so it's not like the wild, is it, where they probably would take one out then?
Oh, look, well, this is the thing. They're more of a scavenger than a predator. They're not,
Yeah,
they're
okay,
not
yeah.
designed as a predatory animal.
Yeah.
You know, predators are designed in two ways. You're either designed for stealth and endurance. You're either designed for stalking, stealth, and have elements of surprise attack, or endurance and chasing your prey down like dogs do.
Yeah.
These guys are more being a scavenger. They're a loping animal. You know, they have what we call a rocking horse gait.
Yeah.
So it's almost like they're skipping everywhere. And they're not an animal that's designed for that stalk and pounce. They have been known to potentially ambush something, but probably more so when they're a little bit younger. You know, because once they start getting a little bit of age to them, they're not overly agile.
Yeah.
So
I don't think that is that the same one that grabbed it straight up and hasn't let go.
yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
So there have been two.
No.
The second one's gone. So we don't. The
There's
funny
no
thing is
investment
they're really going through stages at the moment. We've had a lot of chicken being donated over the last few weeks.
Yeah.
And some of them, you know, you give them chicken for 2 or 3 days in a row, and then they go, no, we don't want chicken now.
Yeah.
And you bring a possum out, they go, oh, sweet.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, they want the chicken today because they've left this and they've gone for the chook.
Yeah.
So,
Hello. Yeah, what's going on in there?
if I let this go, the first thing he'll do is just take off with it. So
Yeah.
he's just doing his lap of honour with his chicken. I'd just sit down and eat it if I were you, buddy.
When I saw this place on TV on the show, they let a couple of them go with the possum, and the possum didn't last long. I threw it pretty quick, in about 5 minutes to kill him, and it was gone.
Yeah, and look, most of the time that happens, except again, tensions are a little bit high in here. So instead of just sitting down and eating, it's more about this is mine.
Yeah. Bit of territorial.
It's more a little bit of power play more than anything else. Because again, you know, the one that was on the chicken quite happily left the chicken to chase the other one away and ended up losing the chicken himself. So
You going to be able to get that back off him to cut her up later?
yeah, yeah. What I'll do, I'll just walk out with him hanging off it.
Yep.
I'll get to the gate. I'll cut it in half.
Oh, okay, yeah,
And then I'll probably take the legs off as well.
Yep.
And just scatter them around. Or else, yeah, he'll drag this in there and sit on it and not let the others come up.
You don't cut it up right with him there though, do you?
Sorry?
You don't cut it up with him right there around you, do you?
No, I'll just go to the other side of the gate.
I made that mistake when our cats weren't cutting up wallaby or rabbit, I think it was. Jumped up in the kitchen sink.
Yeah,
Got
right.
there in the arm. I thought, I'm not doing that again. I'll put the cat at bay.
Yeah, look, sometimes, depending on the individual, sometimes if I need to cut one in half, I'll get them to hold one end, and because they're holding it tight, I
Yep.
just get the knife out and get straight off.
Yeah, wouldn't
But
take
yeah,
much.
not with these four. Because it's, dare I say, I turn my back on one and there'll be a three behind me, so. Alright. Well, that pretty much concludes the tour.
Yeah.
So we'd like to thank you for coming along.
Thank you very much for your
Thank
knowledge
you.
and your
Enjoying the
expertise.
travels.